Welcome to the Envelopes Emmy Contender Series. I'm Yvonne Vieira. Today we're talking to Cody Fern, who plays David Madsen in the TV series The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story. Thanks for joining us.
No worries, big title.
It's a mouthful. I had to take a breath.
Everyone does.
Do you have a shorthand for it? Do you just call it Versace?
It's Versace.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll use that here.
Okay, great. Because I'm not saying the whole thing over again.
I'm not saying it all over again either. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
So you've said before that you were in somewhat of a career rut in your acting adventures when this came along. Talk a little bit about that.
I'd moved to Los Angeles and I was kind of frustrated with the roles that were available, especially when you haven't broken through in America. It's very limited, and I really did not want to play the boy next door or kind of like open on abs, pan to a battlefield. You know, it's just not me. It's just not what I can do, and I would...
That's how we opened here, just focused on your abs. Yeah.
Abs open to battlefield.
Yes,
Here we go.
Yeah.
So it was always, as it goes, it was, you know, down to me and somebody else, and it would keep going like this, and it was always me and Joe Cole and Ty Sheridan and Miles Teller, and you're always going to miss out in that situation with, certainly with studio films. And so I decided to start writing and directing, and my feature film was just about to go. And I'd kind of said, I'm going to pull back and this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to put all my attention here because it's more creatively fulfilling. And I had said when I moved to LA, crazily, that no, I'm just going to be a film person. I don't want to do television unless it's House of Cards or Ryan Murphy. And that's true. And when the audition came through for Versace, I was in London working on the script for my feature, and I said, I have to fly back. I have to be there. I've got to go for this, and it's going to be my last hurrah. You know, this is going to be emptying the tank. I've gone for a Ryan Murphy series, and I can be happy. And I did that, and then a week later, I was back in for the callback, and the rest is history. But I was like, I'm going to take a break from acting for 18 months.
Was he in the room when you were auditioning?
No, I auditioned with the casting directors, who are phenomenal casting directors, Nicole Daniels and Courtney Bright. And then I had my callback with Brad Simpson and Tom Rob Smith. And then Ryan had started filming at that point in time. They were in Miami filming the first episode. Wow. So then I got the call.
And what was your feature about?
Well, I have two, but that's a long story. I'll keep them under wraps until they're
You're
announced.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you grew up in Australia. How much did you know about the Versace murder and the murders of, you know, that Cunanan had done?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero, yeah. And that's what I think is so great about the series, because it brings to light something that a whole generation of people wouldn't know about without it. I knew that Versace existed as a brand, and I knew that Donatella was the head of it, but I didn't even know about Gianni Versace. So it was a great learning experience for myself as well. I think many people in the cast were learning about what happened as it went along and being shocked that this is not something that was public information, that it wasn't you know, received in the same way that most spree killers are.
Right.
And how did we not investigate this? So I really knew nothing. It was a whole learning process for me.
So how long did you have before filming began? Because your first episode was episode 4, I believe, right?
House by the Lake.
Yeah. How much time did you have did you read the book? What other preparation went into it?
I'm a fast reader. So I read the book before the audition. I was 3/4 of the way through the book before I went to the audition, because I really wanted it. I really wanted to work with Ryan, and I knew no other details about the show at that point in time.
What scene did you audition with?
The scene was in the car when David is explaining and describing the shame he's been carrying around all his life, and is he really afraid of Andrew, or is he afraid of who he is and what he's hidden and how it's come to light, and he's reflecting back on his father and you know, who's going to buy from his father's shop. So that was the scene.
Wow.
It was a very intense scene.
Yeah.
But I had a week and a half of preparation
Okay.
before we started shooting.
Okay.
So it was kind of get the script and go.
Was there anything outside of the book? Or, because, I mean, watching the show, it was hard because I was just like Googling after every episode because I wanted to know everything. But for you, like, was there other sort of elements that went into your preparation, other sources?
Yeah, I mean, it's always an amalgamation of many different things, for me anyway, as an actor. And I think Maureen's book is so well researched that there's so many different viewpoints in starting to construct the life of David Madsen. And I certainly wanted to go for the essence of David Madsen because we didn't have access to videos of who this man was. So I started to look at, particularly for episode 4, I looked at the testimonies of Linda Kasabian in the Manson family murders, because she describes in great detail what it's like to go through seeing somebody being murdered in front of you and feeling that you can't run and that you're complicit and you're a part of something, and the twisted psychology of that. And that's really where I wanted to start. The question for me that helped define who David was the question, why didn't David run? Why didn't he go? Why didn't he fight back? Why didn't he overpower Andrew? And I think the episode House by the Lake really deals with that question and struggles with that question, which brings a lot of the tension to it. And so I wanted to bring that tension to myself of, why am I not running in this situation? Why am I not breaking free? So looking at Linda's testimony really helped. And then also chatting with the director Dan Minahan and Tom Rob Smith, the writer, about the very specific type of shame that David was feeling, and what gay shame means and how it expresses itself, and how to, rather than play that, embody that in the choices that a person makes, because shame is not a thing that a person feels naturally. It's something that comes from society, right? Like, it comes from the outside in, and then it's internalized, and then it causes particular modes of behavior.
Right.
So I wanted to investigate those modes of behavior with David in a very specific way throughout the course of his arc in the series.
Well, and the episode opens, I mean, we see a violent murder happen, but the camera is on you witnessing it happen. What was going through your mind in those moments, like knowing that this all sort of hinges on your reaction to what is happening? And mind you, you're working with a dog.
That dog, yeah. I mean, it was actually a really incredible day because, Darren and I had become friends, and Darren Finn and I had become friends, and I was working with Dan, who's such an amazing director, and Tom Rob Smith's writing it's all there, you know. So if you're ever concerned or lost, then you just fall back into the script, and you don't have far to fall back before Tom Rob Smith, you know, is propping you up, and then you have visionary Ryan Murphy overseeing the whole thing. So I felt very safe to explore intense vulnerability in that moment. Actually, what had happened with that scene was my reaction to that scene was supposed to be on a different day.
Oh.
And on the day we did the Death of Jeff trail, and we filmed all the footage that way, and Dan said, "Cody, we're going to turn around and we're going to get you." And I was like, I can't, what do you mean? Like, I haven't had the time to emotionally prepare for this. And I started to get very anxious. And Dan said, this is exactly what this man is going through. How do you respond to a situation like this? It's not even real. you know, when you first see it, you have to think and process, like, what is even going on? And so he said, we're going to turn the camera around and we're going to go for it. And if we don't get it, we'll just come back tomorrow and we'll get it. And we got it in one take.
Wow.
And the dog was freaking out so much. It was so real to everybody in the room. There was kind of a somberness to it. And the dog was freaking out so much that it kind of helped, because everybody in the room was panicked. And I kind of had to take all of that and take big, deep breaths and just focus on what's happening in front of me right now.
Oh. So what were they acting out? Like, what were you watching as?
I was watching the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you, was it like the last shot of the day, or you have to do other things after that?
I had to do other things after that.
Wow.
After that, we went and did the shower scene.
Okay.
Where Andrew is washing the blood off David, and he gets out of the shower. And there was a great continuity to that, because we'd just gone through this shocking event, and now we were going to, you know, it was going to be this other shocking event. And it actually it helps, that sort of intensity helps me as an actor anyway. It's really what I like to explore, is the dark, frightening, hidden places of the human psyche, and hugely traumatic events that strip away in one moment the entirety of your personality, and you go into survival mode.
Right.
And then for David, he's trying to piece it all together, not just what happened, but who am I in this thing that just happened? Where is David, you know, in all of this, and how do I get out?
How about in the final moments? I mean, we see them go to a bar, they're on the run, and we see that David is contemplating escaping from a bathroom window, but he ultimately doesn't. And then, you know, he ultimately dies. But this is all sort of theorizing. We don't know what actually happened.
Right.
So talk a little bit about how that was for you. Like, was that freeing, or did you feel like a little untethered because there was nothing to sort of anchor you?
I mean, there are many anchor points, the things that we know occurred. There's footage of David and Andrew at a diner holding hands, and it seems like it's very comfortable footage, but when you look closer, you understand that actually something is very sinister is going on. So that actually, the hand holding actually happened, and so there are many true to life moments throughout it, but of course there is this element of stitching together what has happened in this time.
Yeah.
That this man is murdered in his apartment, and he's seemingly involved in the police's mind, and then he ends up dead a few days later. It was freeing for me because the core question for me, for David in this series, is why doesn't he run when he smashes the window? Why doesn't he go? And we really explored that question, myself, Dan, Ryan, Tom, you know, the producers, Brad and Nina. It was a big collaborative effort to think, like, why? And I don't want to answer too much about it, because I think it's really up to the audience to deduce for themselves why David didn't run. But I will say this much, is that there is, throughout House by the Lake, the feeling of David looking back and assessing his life and all of the choices that he's made and all of the hiding that he's done and all of the repression that he's been through. You know, he's looking back to when he came out to his father, and he's looking at his life and his relationship with Andrew and Jeff, and I think he's starting to become aware of the fact that he's spent a great deal of his life in hiding, not being who he truly is. And of course, that's what the series looks at, homophobia in the 90s. And I think that in that moment, David understands that even if he runs from this thing, where is he going to go?
Right.
Where is he going to run? This is with him forever. And so there's one final opportunity for courage. And he has to face this thing down. He has to face Andrew down. And a big part of the beauty of David is his endless compassion. He truly believes that Andrew can be redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
But in this moment, it's not about Andrew's redemption, it's about his own. And how will he be able to live with himself if he doesn't face the entirety of what has happened in this one moment, mm-hmm. and look Andrew in the eyes and figure out how this came to be. And so I think he gains an incredible sense of courage, because it's a moment of, I know I'm going to die, but in the few moments that I have left, I'm really going to live. Mm. And I'm going to live truthfully and honestly, and I'm going to face all of the demons. And there's courage in that.
How was it to act opposite Darren? Like, how were your acting styles different, or your methods to approaching, like, you're laughing?
Yeah, Darren, Darren is now a great friend. He is an incredible actor and, such a great guy. Mm-hmm. But we have very different acting styles, and whereas I'm far more earphones on, certain pieces of music, and really ripping myself up emotionally before the scene because it's what it calls for. Darren, on the other hand, was keeping set very light and very jocular and free, and necessarily so, because there's so much darkness in this series. So it was phenomenal to watch, because Darren would go from being Darren Criss to switch in the scene, and you're, oh my, I'm terrified of it. I'm terrified in this moment. And that was a part of the energy that was needed, is that as an actor, all of the preparation that I could have done needs to go out the window, because when you're in a scene with Darren, the way that you think a line may or may not be delivered is not going to be delivered like that by Darren. He is so flexible, and each take provides something different, that you really have to be like with him and following him, and where is he going. And that fed into David, because he can never take his eyes off Andrew. It's, what is his mood? How is he feeling? Am I pushing too far? Am I pulling, too far back? Am I... So it was an incredible collaboration. And working backwards to...
How was that? Like, discovering your character backwards, navigating that?
Oh, it was great. It was really great, because I'll say the first thing about that is, whatever concept you have of your personality goes out the window when you see somebody murdered in front of you. And then you are very likely about to be brutally murdered yourself. So anything that is established about David, it's over and done with, and you need to deal with the situation right now. So working backwards was a really wonderful gift to the memory of this man, because what he was left with is this really tragic, horrific moment. But by working backwards and breathing life back into David Madsen, what we're left with is this moment of incredible love, where Andrew and David first meet, and hope and youth, and excitement for the future of his, job as an architect, and of this potential relationship, and of the end of loneliness in a bar in San Francisco, So that was a really beautiful thing, because I knew I had this thing to look forward to give over as a gift. And it was the last scene that I got to film as David, was this moment of incredible joy. And that felt really good to leave the audience with, and to leave David with, and the memory of David, so that he's not remembered as this, body by a lake.
Right. There was a lot of discussion about whether the cast should reach out to the families of the victims. What was your stance on whether you wanted to approach David's family?
I think it took a lot of restraint, but also really investigating what it would mean, and how a family is impacted by the death and by having to relive it. So out of respect, we all decided that it was best to stick with the source material that we had and the writing that Tom had done and years of investigating, and go for the essence of the people that we were portraying without ripping up something for his family again. You know, he was a son, and he was a brother, and he was an uncle, and he was a friend. And that's very painful for people to ring and say, "Hi, I'll be playing your son. Can you tell me some things about him?" So we left it alone out of respect.
Did you hear from any of them?
I've not heard from them, no, and I don't expect to. I think it must be an incredibly difficult thing to watch. But I would just hope that if they did see it, they would see that we've captured this incredible human being who had so much love and so much compassion and so much joy, and that he's the victims are the real heroes of this series. That's the thesis of this series. It's about these lives that we didn't know about, you know. So that's what I would hope they'd be left with.
So you followed up this intense journey of Versace and got a role on House of Cards,
right?
Your other bucket list, like
yeah.
So how did that happen? What can you tell us about the character you're playing? It's the final season of the series.
The final season of the series. I can't tell you anything.
Well, can you tell me that you're definitely not playing? Who is this character not?
A woman. I will say that it's an incredible gift to be a part of the series, to be acting opposite Robin Wright, who I've been watching House of Cards longer than I've been acting. And it's a dream role. And
is she taking the leadership position well?
Absolutely. And everyone's throwing their weight behind Robin. I mean, you know, it's Claire Underwood. So it's Claire Underwood. Who is not excited to see a series about Claire? And to get to act opposite her, and Diane Lane and Greg Kinnear and Jane Atkinson as Kathy Durant. I mean, there's so many amazing people on this show. Michael Kelly, Boris McIver. You know, they've formed a real family. And it's great to be able to pay homage to something that people have loved for so long. And I think it's a very powerful statement with everything that's happening at the moment in the world, with the Me Too movement, and with accountability, that there's a series that says we are not going to go under because of the actions of one man. We are going to band together, and we are going to show that we are stronger together than divided. I think that's a really powerful message at the moment, and I think all respect to Netflix and the writers and creators of the series, and for Robin for coming back and saying, yeah, I'm going to take these reins.
I wish you'd tell us more. Well, we're going to end with a lightning round, if you're ready.
As in fast questions?
Fast questions.
Okay.
Last show you binge watched?
Dark on Netflix.
I haven't even heard of this.
Dark? Oh my God, it's by Baron O. Oh no, I'm not going to try and say his name. It's phenomenal.
Okay.
It's a German series. It's incredible.
Okay.
You should watch it as soon as you can. And The Crown. I just watched The Crown on the plane. Not interested in the royal family at all. And then here we are, not doing a lightning round. So.
What classic show, like in all of time, would you have wanted to be a part of?
Mad Men.
Good. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started acting?
It's going to be okay. And find balance in your life. And also, I would say, enjoy every moment of it, including the trauma and the rejection and the eating ramen noodles, you know, really enjoy that. I look back on that and I'm so like fond of it in a way, you know. Not that I'm, you know, a Kardashian all of a sudden or something like that.
Like that reference.
Yeah.
Have you ever been fired from a job?
Yeah, I've been fired. I have been fired and I have walked out. I was once asked at a cafe, I was a barista, and I had to wear this like stupid beret, and the manager went away, and so I wasn't wearing the beret, and she came back and she was like, "Where's your beret?" And I said, "Oh, well, can I go on my lunch break?" And she said, "Yeah," and I just was not going to be wearing that hat, so I didn't go back. Yeah, no, I've been fired. I've been fired for being too myself, I think, in a lot of situations. I'm also bad because I end up telling people, like when I was working in hospitality, if someone's rude to me, I'm like, oh, you know.
Bugger off.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't need this shit. So
I'm going to take a cue from you. Favorite Golden Girl?
Kate Blanchett. Or do you mean of the series?
The series. But I like that too. Let's just go with Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett, Meryl Streep, they're my golden girls.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Betty Davis.
Okay.
Yeah, Katharine Hepburn. I'm just going to start naming women.
No.
Michelle Obama.
I don't know how they'll feel about it, but I think it's good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us,
Thank
Cody.
you.
It was a pleasure. And if you want to check out more of our Emmy chats, head over to latimes.com.